Welcome back to episode 4 of the Standard Moon. We ended the previous episode by upgrading the power situation by adding 3 more solar trackers and removing the basic solar panel, which wasn't really doing too much on there. So we're finally going to build the headlamp, if I can find the ingots required to make it. I did actually experiment with the portable light stand, and I just think I prefer the headlamp instead. I think the portable light is a pretty big unit. You set it on the ground, it seems a little weird to have something that large, you know, sitting in your suit effectively. So. Also, I think the headlamp provides a more directional forward lighting, and the portable lamp is more general around. And I do plan to add wall lighting to the base, and so really I just need, you know, what I'm looking at type of lighting with the headset, and so I'm going to go with that. Plus, I think it looks a little more stylish. Since I'm inside, I'll have my helmet off. For the most part, I don't have it on now because I'm trying to see. But once I have the light, when I come in, I'll just swap the headlamp with my helmet, and you know, then I can see inside any time and all that. So I'm going with that approach. So I was been trying to find nickel, and I realized I still have 20 units of nickel from the original big clump of nickel. I just lucked out on finding it. Haven't found any nickel since then. So since I really want the sensor lenses, I decided to take that 20 and go ahead and make Inconel. And with that I can make the sensor lens, and that'll make mining 1,000,000 times easier. But to do that I need a precise quantity of steel, and the only way I can split that up in the right number is by using stackers, or a stacker. So I decided to go ahead and just build my 3 stackers. I put stackers on everything but the tool printer. So I figured, well, instead of just building 1, I'll just build 3, and that gives me a way to break up the steel. I think I have 20 of nickel, so I'll need 20 steel, and I'll need 40 gold. Fortunately, I have a unit of 50 ore gold, so that's easy to split up. So for the stackers, we use 1 chute, sort of angle it over. You know, stackers are a pro and con. They can be a little pain. Just printing off one item sometimes it's getting away, but on the other hand, it's definitely nicer to have all that stuff flying around. Now, just obviously while I was monologuing there, I also, besides building the headlamp, I built a arc welder. So if I need to do any welding inside, I don't have to introduce any additional pollutants into the environment. So I built a separate large battery for that. Trying to build some of this little stuff first before I start the big print for the advanced furnace. Keep that filled, because I put one of those small batteries in the headlamp, which I'm now using. So this is the headlamp right here. I got that on. It's fine, you know. I mean, I can see in front of me. It's not as bright as the suit lamp, I don't think. And it does drain that small battery. Probably worth putting a larger battery in there in the future. But I said I do plan to put in wall lights in here. So, and currently power is really not a big deal. I don't want to be too wasteful, obviously, but every time I put those stackers up, I always quickly set them to 50. The reason for that is one time I forgot, and default is 1. All right, we're going to make that advanced furnace now. And boy, did that create a mess when I did a dump operation. Everything came out as units of 1. I made a big pile. So after that, I learned to always go ahead and do unit 50 and gathering up stuff I need to make this furnace. Okay, so now we're building our advanced furnace. So with that, we can make Inconel, and that's the only thing we need to make the sensor glasses. Now that's printing, so okay, so I do use up that bag. Later on, I start looking for the bag, and I can't find it. And I forgot that I actually just emptied it out, which I just saw right there. All right, so turn that on. We haven't chipped that yet. Keep an eye on it. Now in the moon, you know, the moon on normal, that tank lasts a long time. So we're waiting for that to print, so we'll probably go ahead and do a quick mining run. Hopefully the last mining run I do without the sensor lenses. Yeah, I need to remove that. I need to replace that wall light too. Put my gear on, swap that out. I think sometimes I leave the headlamp turned on in my inventory. It does provide a little extra light. So that works, so you can keep the headlamp in the inventory. But all right, which is just quick mining just to keep busy while we're printing. And we seem to be a little short on copper. So we'll go ahead and look for that. And of course, we find a bunch of other stuff. Let's go with that. Sometimes find when the ice is all intertwined with what you're looking for. And we're back. And for the most part, I'm trying to avoid mining right next to the base at this point. Keep it kind of flat and reasonable, so when I build the base up, it doesn't look too messed up in the general area. All right, we have our printer, and we got a bunch of useful ores too. So, sorry, we got our furnace, not printer. And see, we had it turned off and it heated up. That's working out pretty well. You know, I just right now we'll automate that in episode 5. Episode 5 will do that and set that up so they'll be automated and don't have to worry about it anymore. It'll turn itself on and off and maintain temperature. And unless the temperature starts creeping up too high, so it's not keeping up, then we'll just add more. We'll deal with it and add probably more radiators on the outside. But as long as it keeps up, it should, with a target of 25, but we'll talk about that in. So the advanced furnace needs electronic parts and steel sheets to make. Obviously, all the new stuff is getting more and more complicated to assemble. Okay, so we're going to take the old furnace out. Go ahead and hydrate quickly while we're sitting here. And we got 2 insulated pipes. We'll need a few more of those. So I got my nickel there, gold, basically while I'm printing off the pipes, I'm going to kind of organize what I need to smelt here. So we need, because basically it's 2 units of gold to 1 unit of nickel and 1 unit of steel. So, and since we have 20 nickel, we'll do 40 gold and 20 steel. So we'll kind of organize them. There's our 40 gold, and then we need to take some steel and break that up into the right size. Need some more silicon to make more pipes. Okay, so we got pipes going. We gotta find some of that steel, and since we already emptied this one, we'll go ahead and crank that down to 20 and throw it in. Okay, so we have the raw materials we need all in the right units. Reset this back to 50. Don't want to forget that. And now we crank out some pipes. We got plenty of oxide and volatiles on us. We don't need a lot of temperature. This requires very precise pressure range. But the temperature is like, you know, not, I mean, it's a little warm, but not that bad. Real easy to hit that temperature range. And since the advanced furnace has, you know, 2 pumps on it, one for adding, one for moving gas. We already have the insulated tank out there that we use as a buffer. This should be a pretty simple operation. Famous last words. Yeah, I think for the newer players out there, for me, when I started, smelting was sort of this mental block I had. It just seemed like the most hardest thing in the world to do. And yeah, I remember like doing a smelt, and I threw in 50 oxide and 100 volatiles in there. Don't do that. I go, well, you know, I'll make it hot, right? So, yeah. Blew up the furnace and realized that was probably a little too much. So I'm removing all this stuff. Well, since the advanced furnace has its own pump on it, we don't need this pump. Gotta move stuff out of the way. And we'll peel this back so it does not get in the way of the furnace when we put it in. And kind of weird how it sinks into the frame there. And so I think that's where we want it. Drop that in, a little welding, and we're ready to go. Oh, not quite. Give the old screwdriver, connect those wires up, and now we're ready. We still need to wire it up and then hook up the pipes in the back. Yeah, for the, I guess true for any planet, which is a vacuum, you don't want to be wasting that gas coming out of the furnace, because not only do you have the combustion gases, but you have, when you degas stuff, all that gas goes in there too. Now, if you end up with some ores with a little bit of oxygen in it, some with a little bit of volatiles in it, they'll mix and burn. But since we have oxide all over the place, it's not a big deal. All right. For some reason, these are turned on by default. So after you build it, you need to set them to 0 or whatever you want. They don't actually run until you turn the power on. So, but if you just flip the power on, it'll start running. Okay, just hit the cancel. I'm going to have to use the advanced airlock mechanism so I can stop hitting the cancel button. I guess the other solution is put in some super power vent system, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, go ahead and dump the crap I don't need. Okay, so let's grab the magic stuff. Double check everything, got everything, lots of stuff. Not sure why I did that. Okay, just getting prepared, get mentally prepared to make this. Battery's up to charge. Everything's good. I'm not sure what my arc welder matters. Okay, so I've done everything I can to put this off. We've already turned off our switches, so let's go ahead and heat this up. So we need, what do we need? Oh, so we need about 600 Kelvin, which is 327 Celsius. So anything above that, that's a piece of cake. But we need between 23.5 and 24 megapascals. Now we have fine controls on the furnace there, so that shouldn't be a problem. We can just, and they'll pump pretty fast if you crank them up, but you crank them down to 1, they go from 1 to 100. So we're hitting the button to activate to get since there's nothing in the tank, we need to get the oxide melted internally. So we just do and that frees up the port. Forgot to, all right. So we got our burning, and so we're going to toss in other stuff. Now the gold hasn't been degassed, so it's going to have a cooling effect, but this is so hot. Temperature is not a problem. If anything, we want the additional gas. And so I was a little short on the gas. So we're just sitting below what we need, just below. So I said, okay, well, we have a tank of gas on the other side. Let's just pump a bunch of that gas in there. It's really hot. It's really, really hot. We'll just pump a bunch of that other gas, even though it's cold gas. It doesn't really matter. It's so hot. And what's happening here is as I add gas from the insulated tank behind, as I add volume, it cools it, and it reduces the pressure, and I can't hit the target because the gas is reducing the pressure faster than the gas is offsetting that loss. So I do this for a while and going, this is just, I'm just a little bit off. If I had that, I don't know, it's a little more. So I'm going to throw in a little more oxide. Fortunately, I don't have to remove this stuff, so we'll just throw in 2 oxide, and I don't want to overdo it. And we'll throw in 4 volatiles. Oh, you notice how also one thing, I'm doing this at night. You do this during the daytime when it's in your hand, it will begin to melt. All right, so we cranked it up, and boom, and we just hit the threshold. So we kind of lucked out there. We put a little bit in there, and as it went up, we caught it going up, the pressure going up, and then we just dumped it. If we overshot it, then I just start, removing gas, and that would be no big deal here. All right, so if I would put a little more in the first time, it would have gone more smoothly. Cancel that. All right, so now we have that. So now we have everything we need to make this the sensor lenses. And with that, you know, we move to easy mode. Now we'll go ahead and let's get some of this other stuff smelted. Definitely getting short on copper. I don't want to sit there and have to make something and not have enough copper. We also have a whole bunch of iron we've been accumulating, so we can make it some steel here. I mean, I can wait a few seconds for making the lenses because I don't need those until I go out on a mining run. So, and since the furnace is hot, let's go ahead and leverage it. Yep, nice and toasty, and there's a lot of gas in there, so we can just do some steel. Had some chutes on there. I could just kind of stack them in there, but that's later. And we got steel. It lights up when it has something in there. Let's go ahead and smelt all this other stuff. We don't want to run out of something critical. And we got lots of copper now. I think we burned through a lot of copper making those solar units. What is this, day 10? Yeah, this really comes down to, I mean, I really lucked out. I didn't realize that nickel was so hard to find, and that batch of nickel I found early on, it was a big section of it. I think I brought up about 120 units of nickel ore. And I was thinking, I'll just get more. It's no big deal. I'd get 50 units of nickel and make a whole bunch, you know, in Canal. And no, I just couldn't find any. So fortunately, I had the extra 20 there. So I guess the moral of the story, if you find some nickel, save a little for later. Don't use it all up to save something with the sensor lens in case you don't find any more nickel. Okay, we're going through all the little bits and pieces we need. I'm going to break up this steel. And silicon, and we have some silicon. Aha, finally. And then the actual card is, the ore scanner card is pretty simple. Okay, it's getting a little chilly in here, so I just turn off the valve. And then we're going to pull the gas out of there just to make sure we don't have any problems. And getting there, and voila. And we just print the card, and we'll also print a large battery for this. It uses up a lot of power. Okay, that stuff is no big deal. Okay, so now mining is pretty much on easy mode. Probably the one more thing to make mining easier if we get the heavy jetpack. Heavy jetpack is faster, but that requires, I think, a number of the super alloys, which I don't have yet. And another large battery for the glasses because they consume quite a bit of power when they're on, but definitely worth it. Find my headset. I think I stuck them in my tool belt. Oh, yeah, they are. Voila, we have light. Okay, we swapped the battery around, and all right, we're ready to rock and roll here. You can go ahead and upgrade the other two printers, sort of get everyone up to snuff here. We shouldn't need a tool printer for a while now, maybe for paint or something like that. I built all the stuff that I really need. Got some of that, some of that. So long as the printer's upgraded, and then we'll be set there. Go ahead and hydrate and eat some munchies. So that tank's empty. As I said, next episode we'll switch the manual valve to a digital valve and put a pipe analyzer on there and put a little chip on there and isolate it all with a transformer, and then we'll set that up. It's pretty simple logic. And if I ever do a script and you want anyone's interest in sort of a standalone, where I sort of go over it piece by piece of what I'm doing, let me know in the comments. I mean, there's plenty of very good programming videos, but it's a bit overwhelming. The syntax is, MIPS-based, and it depends if you have previous programming experience or not, which helps. But for me, typically it's just practice, just to keep doing it, and it gets easier over time, like most things. Kind of looking around before I go out and do some more mining here. Probably should keep a GPS card with me, just in case something bad happens. Okay, so everything seems happy there for now, and let's do this. So looking for, I'm trying to get away from the base so I don't dig holes around it for now. Looking for, well, we have gold. Gold's always good. Specifically, I'm looking for more cobalt. We'll need that for the superalloys, and of course nickel. We're all out of nickel, so we need more of that. And then the other ones, gold, iron, copper, they all seem easy enough to find. So we'll just kind of get a bunch of gold and a bunch of iron, everything. But we're just kind of like just burning some time here, just mining a bunch of the basic stuff, having fun with the glasses. All right, so this is this point now that mining becomes, infinitely easier, because you can see everything. Now you do have a range. You can't, see everything, and certain layers block other layers, but it does make it a much easier process finding stuff. I didn't find any nickel. I think there's nickel right next to the base, but I didn't want to dig it out because of I don't want to have another hole too close. All right, so we got power going, and yeah, not quite. We can do the gold. We can't smelt the other things without heating out, so what we'll probably do is just go ahead and do the gold and empty the tank out, and then we can fire up a fresh hot batch. Okay, we're definitely getting low on gold. Make sure that's okay. And we'll just crank it all out. We gotta make sure we turn it on, and then we're just gonna empty the whole thing out. So that little tank back there is quite useful, except for the stuff I had to smelt in the arc furnace. I've been preserving all gases since then, so nothing else is vented to the atmosphere. I'm saving it all. Well, no problem finding the pipe bender mod. Just need a screwdriver for that and turn that off. Go ahead and make the final one mod for the auto lathe, and then they'll be all upgraded. Okay, so now that I improved my mining ability, we start focusing on how well the printer's updated. We got enough here to make more steel. We'll just, once that furnace gets empty, we'll fire it up nice and hot and make some steel and silicon and smelt all that other stuff up. Printing that mod. I have the valve shut, so it's starting to warm up in here a little bit. We'll throw some ice in here, even though it's over 100 kilopascals. Gotta free up some inventory. Not consuming the O2 fast enough. So that little system works pretty well. I mean, it, even manual, because it doesn't change that quickly. So, you know, because of the slow rate of change, you really can run it just manual the whole time. But it didn't take much to set it up. All right, so yeah, we're gonna have to grab this last thing of water. So water is actually becoming a concern now, surprising enough. We'll go ahead and move some of this junk around, and I definitely need, one of the problems with these windows is no good place to put lockers. So I have a solution for that, but we're not quite ready to do that. So next is we need to get a hydroponic set up, and when we do that, we'll put in a drinking fountain. We'll take the water tank we have, we'll just pump everything out of it so we can get rid of it, and then we have like this insulated container of water and a little water canister. We'll suck all that out. So we'll take all the water we provided, we'll suck all that and throw it into the hydroponics with some extra tank for extra room. Put a water fountain on it, and then we'll put an ice crusher on it so we can just take the ice and throw some more water in there, and then we'll vent the nitrogen that's included with the ice into the room just for a little more volume. So I just built 3 rows that fits into a frame, which is sort of my unit of construction. All right, so we need, pretty stingy on the hydro trays. I want to print something else, but I can't because that's busy. Kind of watching that going. All right, so what do we got here? So what we'll do here is we'll think about where I'm running this. So we have a gap there. The gap is where I'm going to put an inline tank just to give some volume to the pipes. And then we'll put a pump on that side. And then we'll put the connector here. Those arrows are really bidirectional. And we need a liquid pump. We don't need anything too fast, so we'll just build a normal one. And basically, we'll empty out that tank of water just to save space in the base, and no reason to have it. It drains mostly out when you first connect it anyway. That's why I just suck it all out and remove it and be done with it. So I had room on the roof for 3 more solar trackers, so I went ahead and made 3 more. We'll remove the basic solar panel since it's really not that useful, at least compared to a solar tracker. Power is not really a concern at this point, but we'll just finish off the roof and be done with that. Okay, so we emptied that tank out. Yeah, should that insulated tank fill up, which would take a while, I just add another one to the side of it. And at some point, I'm going to start pulling gas out of there, so need to separate it. But for now, I'm just collecting it. I can't get stuck behind my solar panels. I don't have the maintenance script, so some have like a switch, and you turn the switch and they all go to a maintenance mode so you can get in between them. I thought that was a very nice concept, but I have not implemented that. Obviously, from somebody who has a very dense solar array and they're trying to get through it, and you can't because they all are moving around on you. Left my wrench in the locker. Okay, so we need to take this off. We can actually disassemble this. A little more compact. And get rid of the base. So we shouldn't need those two forever. At some point I'll build a recycler and take all this stuff I don't need and just recycle it. Better than littering all over the moon, or even worse, hoarding it and storing all this stuff I don't need. Kind of thinking how I'm going to run these wires. All right, so I think we're done with the wiring. Let's just go ahead and pull this unit off. Yeah, the space is far more valuable with a tracker unit sitting there. Plop one there. Now I'm more careful to make sure I don't do the dual connection, just make it a single connection. Pop some glass. Remember that. As I said, they'll track in the vertical automatically, since they're all the same. It's just a horizontal that's different based on the direction. So this is a 0. These are all zeros. The ports all face 0. So this is the same both on my Vulcan run and the Moon run. As long as I have the data port on the sensor facing 0, which is easy since I kind of build my base in a certain direction anyway. Keep an eye on, I'm worried about that tank getting too cold. I probably should pop off that radiator at some point. I'll just manually keep checking it. That needs to be automated too. Put something on there to, well, what I need to do is separate the gases, and then for each gas, put a system on there like I have for the building to cool it down to a certain temperature and then stop at that point. Yeah, it might be useful to use the right printer. So the other problem I have is my jetpack is getting a bit low here. Day 11, I'm still on the original jetpack, and there's some buffer in there. Probably milk it. And I tend to fly. I could probably run around. I think running might be faster than flying. But that's something else I need to deal with too, is the jetpack. I don't want that running out at the wrong time. And so we'll go ahead. What we'll do on that, it's nothing fancy. We'll just build the filtration unit. We'll tap off that tank we have outside. We'll just filter out CO2, fill it up with CO2. It'll be hot CO2. But if we happen to use our jetpack indoors, except for adding a little bit of heat, the assumption is we'll turn it off pretty quickly. As you know, quick mistake, turn it off. It won't contaminate the interior with, you know, volatiles or everything else. So that's why I'm filtering it, not just using the raw gas in my canister. Also, that raw gas has pollutants in it. The last thing I need is liquids forming in my jetpack and my jetpack blowing up, especially since I'm wearing it. Okay, so we're sort of mixing between making stuff we need for the jetpack. We gotta make a little more, few things for the hydroponics. We're gonna use a natural sunlight initially for the hydroponics, and then when we do a base expansion, then we'll go with grow lights. Then I do have plans for the center section, and we'll keep it a secret for now. But one thing I observe for the most part when I build my base is that I use the middle section as a walkway. Never really put things there, or if I put maybe some plumbing there that doesn't require frame requirements, and so I go, well, okay, well, I can just go ahead and leave that open for now. I was going to put some flooring pieces in here instead of having the wall frames, but make it look a little nicer. But just one of those things on the long list to catch up to, and we're focusing on a little more important stuff for now. Prep a few more pipes. Probably an overkill. Make sure I have everything on, and make sure I don't walk out with no suit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tap off this line. Need a wrench. And what we'll do, we'll just use this for input, and we'll take the waste output and loop it. So anything it doesn't filter, we'll just dump it back in the tank for now. Make sure you put this far enough out so I have room to run that loop pipe. That's too close. I'm trying to think I can get around there. So put it there. Unfortunately, I didn't bring any normal pipes so I can finish the filtration unit, but we can go ahead and plumb it up. Now, longer term, we'll probably take advantage of this and just pump out all the gas, pull out all the CO2. I guess we could put another small insulated tank, so the waste will go into that tank, so we don't, recycle back in the original tank. So we'll just pull the CO2 out, put in another tank, and then once we have in that tank, we can put in the passive cooling system. Well, not passive, a vacuum cooling system to bring it down to say 25, and then that gives us lots of gas we can use for both the jetpack and for the hydroponics. Okay, so we need to go ahead and grab those missing gas pipes, non-insulated. right on the shelf there. The room is 29. Probably should open that valve up and cool it back down a little bit. And boom. And we just need to use a screwdriver on it. I think we need some cables and done. Yeah, I know you can get away with just one filter. I just do two just because I always do two. And we'll just kind of watch it instead of putting a pipe meter on there. We just need to get it topped off. We don't go through that much jetpack gas. So we just get it up there a little bit. Yeah, we're mixing it with the nitrogen that's originally in there. Oh, I guess this is, an error I previously made. I said we're no longer venting any gases, but that's not true. We do vent jetpack gas. So that's the only gas we vent at this point. But that's CO2, and that's easy to attain because anytime we do combustion, we'll get CO2, and at some point, we'll automate water production, so that'll generate lots of CO2. Yep. Doesn't take too much. Definitely got a lot of sun power on the moon. And no storms to worry about, so we don't have to enclose them. And at some point, I'm going to think about canceling. Okay, next episode for sure. I'm going to fix that airlock. Okay, so we're going to make an IC chip, and this is for the O2 filler inside. We'll crank that open because it's getting a little warm in here. So this IC chip will go for the O2 filler. And all it really does is it has two mechanisms. One, it makes sure the temperature is below 30 Celsius and the pressure is under, I think, 8 megapascals. So if for some reason the gas here is hot, we don't end up filling up the tank with hot gas. So we paste it in. This will be in the description. It's pretty straightforward as scripts go. And we'll drop it in. In the Vulcan run, I have a fancier version of this that checks the type of canister, if it's a smart canister or normal canister, and just the pressure range. I took that out for this version. That means I don't have to wire up the canister. Yeah, there's a way in the code to detect if a device is connected, and if it's not connected, then you ignore it and things like that. But I do want to overcomplicate the script. For in the case of the moon, you really don't need a smart tank for your O2. You just barely go through it, so it's not a big deal. And since you have to pull your suit off anyway, your suit's going to be off. You can be indoors, topping it off. Maybe you go ahead and get a second tank and just swap them, and then we'll make another tank, paint it white, and leave it in there, and then we just leave the unit on and just swap tanks really fast. So I don't see any reason for a smart tank for the moon. All right, so we got our jetpack issue dealt with. Now we need to get going on growing some stuff here. It gave us one. And that one is really for making a tank storage, so you can pull liquids out of that other container of water they provide. Just kind of checking out how I'm gonna run the wiring here. And we need a bunch more cables. So let's get this going. And we'll loop it around. I like keeping cables for the most part between the frame. You know, that little line between the two, when the two frames meet. Well, in this case, it's a frame and a wall unit, but I grabbed those 2 water bottles so I can throw them into the furnace in the future. So at this point, I forgot that I emptied the original water bag that came out of the lander pod. So I'll kind of look around for that. Couldn't find it. Here, go ahead and stick this here. So I spent a little time looking around for it, and then of course when I did doing this voiceover, I saw earlier on where I took the last water bottle out of the bag. But we have more in our survival supplies, so not a lot. We only have 4 there, so we had 8 bottles plus 1 in the suit, so 9 water bottles to start. Now we do have, of course, a big tank of water and another canister of water, and hook that up and they provide a bottle filler. And so, you know, I could have done this, you know, done some of this early and just take the canister and, you know, the connector and throw the tank on it, put the water filler on it, and then bottle filler, should I say, and boom. But I'm already on day 12 and I'm just tapping. I just went to the box, so that means I got another, you know, what, 8 days or so before I run out of water, and I'll have a drinking fountain set up by then. So then I can take all the water bottles and throw them out as I'll empty them one by one, and then I'll just throw them all in the furnace to get rid of them. So I think it's time to go do a big smelting run. I need a better place to put that headlamp. Yeah, as I said, the downside of all these windows, it makes it difficult to put any lockers anywhere. Hate to block the view. I have a long-term solution for that. Well, maybe in about 4 episodes that'll become obvious. So I'm groveling through stuff I want to smelt, and at this point I'm basically smelting when all possible in units of 50s. If it's sub 50s, you know, unless I'm desperate, I don't bother. It makes it a little easier if I want to mix up an alloy if all the blocks are in 50s, and then of course that means there's less of them laying around. If I had a bunch of fragments of, you know, sub 50 ingots laying around, and that gets a bit messy because we got enough ingots laying around as it is. Yeah, I need a bigger, upgrade my jetpack so I can store more inventory. Okay, let's make sure everything is turned off. Now you can run this furnace with it turned off. You can. It's only when you run the pumps you have to turn it on. All right, so we're going to do 7 and 14 seems to work okay. I've done that initially. And we're doing this at night, of course, to avoid it melting in our hands. Now this is indoors, blocked from the sun. And we haven't enclosed it. It's possible to enclose these furnaces and to prevent heat loss and things like that. But at this point, especially on the moon, it's really not a problem. We'll set that up later on, but for now. So So we're gonna make some more steel here. We can always use more steel. And then get rid of the water bottles. And we got a whole bunch of silicon. So let's burn through all that. Yeah, as I made a comment that, you know, I tend to, once I have steel, I tend to overuse insulated pipes for everything. And I stop making non-insulated pipes unless for some very specific reasons, like you have to, like making, you know, atmospheric unit, or maybe in the case of hydroponics, which are always indoors, so there's no reason to insulate them in those scenarios. But mostly I make insulated pipes that way. It's because they're very flexible. If I take them out and, you know, remove them and disassemble them, you know, they can always use it for something. Okay, we got a bunch of steel and a bunch of silicon, so making more insulated stuff will not be a problem. Except now I gotta store it everywhere. At this point I need to be more targeted about mining, although sometimes you just happen to find a big pile of something and just mine it out. Yeah, building something like a large insulated tank, now that goes through the silicon. We're gonna take that, put that over there. Thought I was gonna break it up. We'll see if it's hot enough to get away with another, yeah, we can do another steel. Yeah, if it gets too cold in there, we'll get liquids in there. I think I need to put a condensation valve on there to a liquid tank. That way I can pull the liquid out of there and store that off, and then I can bring it down. But I need to put some. I don't want to get too cold, so take it down to like 20, 25. I think all the pollutants will liquefy, or for the most part, turn liquids. Everything else will stay a gas form. Okay, we got lots of steel. So we'll start making a bunch of steel frames, and track down, put my headlamp on. But we're not in here that long, so we'll just pop the helmet off, and yeah, I stopped doing the open helmet thing at this point. So yeah, so we're gonna build a bunch more steel frames and steel sheets, and so we'll start the base expansion. That'll start in the next episode. So I think next episode we'll focus on hydroponics, get that set up, get the water fountain, ice crusher set up, get some stuff growing, and then start expanding the base a bit, make room for next bit of automation. Because what we want to do, we want this base set up to a point where we don't have to mine ice. So initially we don't want to mine ice. That means we have to make our own oxygen from plants. Oh, we found some cobalt, that's good. And we need to make our own volatiles, also from plants. Take the plants and you run them to the composter and you get gas from there. So you can create those from plants. So that gives you that mixture. Carbon dioxide you get from, since you can now make an oxygen volatile, you burn that, and you get water, and you also get gas, and you can just burn it and get carbon dioxide. You can also use that for your furnace. Actually use the output from your combustor for making water, which is at 2000 Kelvin. And there's your gas for heating up your furnace. So, and then put some deep miners in for other ores, and you don't have to leave the base anymore. So that's what we want to do in this series. We want to become fully self-sufficient, and also want to hunt through some of the stuff that you can make, and we'll just kind of build a little bit of everything just to work through it. This is stuff I have never even used myself. All right, so at the end of this episode, we're just going to end it right here in the airlock and continue later on. Until then, see ya.